Welcome, fellow northern basement dwellers, to the very special spooky Halloween episode of My Parents' Basement. I'm Anthony Trombetta from France, and this is my frightening co-host, Chris Ford.
We're gonna have a lot of creepy stuff coming your way that you northern basement junkies are gonna think is awesome.
Yes, we're taking a very special Halloween horror look at movies, video games, TVs, munchies, and more.
First up, we're gonna give you a rundown on what we think is hot and what we think is not.
First up, here's what I think is hot. Don't panic, Chris. It's a real book with pages and words and no pictures. But Under the Dome by Stephen King. It's a great read. Just came out a couple of years ago, and once the weird things start happening, and basically an invisible force field appears over a town overnight, and then it just keeps going. It's a roller coaster of a ride, a fantastic read. It's got the classic save at the end. Well worth it.
Alright, if any of you out there are fans of the Mass Effect games, and I know you are because they sold like hotcakes, you can order online the Mass Effect N7 armor. They're custom making it out of foam. The full male set costs $1,250, and it comes with a replica M8 battle rifle. The female set is $1,350. Apparently it takes a little longer to sculpt the female curves, so they jack the price up a little bit more.
Something else that I think is hot. When's the last time you've been on your favorite social media site and someone sent you a picture and you thought to yourself, this picture of a shark attacking a helicopter, is this real? Well, put all those internet heaves in their place with Snopes.com. It's the urban legend database. So sure, you could skim around and check out stories about the hook-handed man, but it also tackles every internet hoax that is currently running now.
Here's something that's hot. There's a real-life Iron Man named Felix Baumgartner. He's gonna do a 120,000-foot free-fall jump from the stratosphere. Felix is planning on breaking 4 world records. He's gonna A, have the highest manned balloon flight. B, he's gonna have the free fall from the highest altitude ever by a human. 3, he's gonna break supersonic speed in free fall. That's over Mach 1. And 4, he's gonna have the largest free fall time of any person, over 5.5 minutes. Felix is using a specially designed suit made by Red Bull and NASA consultants. Basically, if anything goes wrong with this suit while he's falling, his eyes could liquefy and his blood could boil.
Now here's something that I think is not. Particularly the entire sexy costume phenomena. In absolute particular, Sexy Ernie and Sexy Bert. Where does this come from? Halloween is about scaring the literal crap out of people. And quite honestly, if you're wearing a sexy costume, you're probably a sexy person. This isn't a big stretch for you.
Alright, lastly, we have something that is most definitely not hot, and that is, we all know those people on your street who instead of giving out chocolate bars or rockets, they're giving out trail mix and fruit. That is bullhickey if you ask me. Nobody's going out -40 looking for that, they want candy.
I'm with you 100% on this one, Chris. Anyone who gives out fruit at the door, one, you hate Halloween, you obviously hate children because you don't have any understanding of what they like.
Absolutely. Well, now let's get down to business and fire on over to Anthony to talk about comics.
So I brought something a little extra special for this Halloween episode of My Parents' Basement. Today I want to talk to you about Lock and Key. This is a comic book series written by Joe Hill. Hill is actually a pseudonym because he'd rather not be known for his more famous father, who happens to be Stephen King. But I'll tell you, Joe handles his own. The story is incredible. It's about a family who, after the brutal attack on their father who gets killed, the rest of the family moves to this estate, the Key House, in the very spooky area of Massachusetts. Inside the house, they discover that this house has a secret. Inside are hidden these incredible keys that have all these weird properties. One key will actually allow you to literally pull memories out of your head and even put some back in. One key will allow you to switch genders. One will open up a door that can turn you into a ghost. And as they're discovering all these things, it evolves into this huge, deep mystery. What the house is about, what their family's attachment is to it, what are these keys from? It has all these elements of Lovecraft horror, of a deep, lurking, ancient evil, but it's all set in a modern time. It is a very fast, cinematic kind of book, and with Gabriel Rodriguez's art on the inside, this book just pops. The story keeps you engaged, and the art makes sure you can't put this thing down.
It sounds like it would make a good TV show.
They actually did try to turn it into a TV series. They filmed an entire pilot and then chopped it out. And then I started to get excited because Fox picked it up and then they dropped it. So now they showed it at the 2011 Comic-Con in San Diego, and that's the last people have seen it. So it's kind of floating around in limbo right now, but I got my fingers crossed.
All right, now it's time to go to our man Kyle and Yellowknife to see what he's got going on in this Halloween version of Munchies.
Hello and welcome to the Halloween edition of Munchies. Today we are going to be reviewing the top Halloween candies out there. Let's begin. Coming in at number 10 is Fruit Mania. They land themselves in the number 10 spot because I don't think any candy should have a fruit name in it. It's not bad. It's not bad. The sugar, I love it. Number 9, the Fuzzy Peach. Sounds like a peach you've left out for too long and it's grown fuzz and will probably kill you if you eat it. Opened it. They're covered in sugar. Must be good, right? Oh, I got it. They get your... Going on to 8, Skittles, the sour edition. Oh, whoa. They are a lot more sour than I was anticipating. Oh. 7, Kit Kat. We're getting into the chocolates here, but Kit Kat are my least favorite, and I don't think they're worth the while. 2 chocolate bars, so you could share if you wanted to, but we all know you don't want to. It tastes like a cracker inside, and that's kind of weird. Chocolate cracker? Are we having lunch with a bit of chocolate? Number 6 is the Sour Patch Kids, because no one likes to eat kids like I do. Oh, wait a second. Boom! Snickers is number 5, and I'll tell you why. Because Snickers have nuts in them, and a lot of people have nut allergies. So it can't be number 1, but it's, you know, it's still good. So, Number 4, the bubbly-licious of them all, the Aero Bar. Pure chocolate with air bubbles that will make you feel light and fluffy inside, like the commercials tell you. I don't know why, but I'm liking it. Doesn't melt my mouth. I'm getting a little wound up because I'm not really quite sure what's happening. I don't know what this is or that. Ooh, look, a bear. Oh, there's cobwebs in there. Oh. Number 3, it was my childhood favorite, but I've grown out of it now. It's almost like a Kit Kat, but it's better. It's one nougaty bar, chocolate on the outside, caramel on the inside with a bit of cracker. Amazing. Here is my top recommendation, the Swedish Berry. I don't know why it's the Swedish Berry because we are Canadian. The Swedish Berry is not sour. It's just right. It's chewy. I'll tell you though, it doesn't go well with chocolate. Ugh. Which brings us to number 1. I don't know why I'm losing my mind. I'm just like, I'm flailing arms, wound up, because there's so much candy. I'm losing my mind. That's why we gotta do number 1 really quickly here. I said it before, I said it once again. I'm getting really fast at this. So Mars. Mars is number 1 candy. You know why? You know why it's number 1 candy? Well, it has chocolate, it has caramel, and it's really good. The number 1 thing is because it appeals to everybody. If people can't eat nuts, they can eat this thing. So it's really good for them. Actually, it's not really good for you. I've eaten a lot of sugar, so I'm just gonna try one. Just try one. I really don't know what the creamy stuff is inside. It's really good. On October 31st, you make sure to look for these candies. I'm gonna have a sugar rush in a second. I need to, back to you guys.
One of the hottest new horror games out right now is Resident Evil 6. This just dropped on October 2nd. This is a brand new zombie plague happening. This game is intense. It's got 3 really tightly written, interweaving plots, and each different campaign has you paired with someone. So you're never alone in the zombie apocalypse. This game is so crazy that it starts with the killing of the President of the United States who's been turned into a zombie. This game is awesome. Now the shadows are what really sells it. This game is really dark. Even if you crank the brightness, it's dark. And the beauty of that is Zombies can be like right in front of you and you don't see them until it's almost too late and they're basically ripping your throat out. But that's okay, because that's the whole point. The score is amazing too. Really heavy use of piano, you know, and it really sets the mood. It makes it so that even in the quiet moments where it's calm, it's still, the tension is just ramped up. You don't know what's around the corner. So the first 3 games in the Resident Evil series were pretty similar. They were old. I mean, they were great for the time. The graphics were top-notch back then. They're a little dated now. It was also very different the way you played. It was a slower-paced game. You could either move or shoot, not both. Starting with Resident Evil 4, they took on a little more of an action-oriented approach. As the games progressed, the storytelling got more and more complex and more cinematic. The first Resident Evil had you in a mansion, fighting for your life, in the original Outbreak. Resident Evil 2 took the fight to the city streets. Resident Evil 3 had you being hunted by the menacing Nemesis, a giant zombie with a rocket launcher. Resident Evil 4 had you in Europe, trying to save the president's daughter with a whole new type of zombie. 5 took you to Africa. Again, a new type of zombie, very fast-moving zombies, and also a character from the very beginning became a massive villain in it. So the newer African setting and epic story lent itself really well to co-op play. Playing Resident Evil 5 start to finish with a friend is the best way to play it. So in the end, I would definitely recommend buying Resident Evil 6, especially if you're lucky enough to pick up the Anthology Edition. It includes the new game as well as free vouchers to download 1 to 5 so you can complete your collection. Coming in at number 5, we have Left 4 Dead. This was a zombie apocalypse game like Resident Evil, but it's a really fast-paced one with a really heavy emphasis on co-op. You can have up to 4 players all trying to survive at once. Number 4, Doom 2. One of the original horror games, after Doom 1 of course. I spent many nights as a kid playing this till like 3 in the morning, pissing my pants. Every time I'd go around a corner, there'd be a caco demon there, firing fireballs at me. Let's just stop there. Number 3, Resident Evil, the whole series. Everybody knows these. You know them. What more can be said? Even your mother knows about these. They are just survival horror at its finest. Number 2, Dead Space. This is a survival horror game set in space in a total sci-fi setting. You get to play an engineer who's forced to fight necromorphs, which are basically dead bodies mutated by a space virus, of course. The challenge in this game is not to aim for the head like every other. You gotta cut off their limbs. And my number 1 horror video game of all time. In fact, it's one of my favorite video games of all time of any type. BioShock. It's set in an underwater city built in the 1930s, so everything's in a cool Art Deco style. The city's called Rapture, and it's filled with tons of people driven mad by overuse of genetic splicing. So they're running around completely insane, throwing fireballs and freezing stuff. It's pretty intense. What do you think?
Well, it's a very nice list, Chris, but yes, I have some bones to pick with you, because I'll tell you, I'll agree with you that Resident Evil is the king of survival horror, but I accuse you of nerd crime for not including the Crown Prince, Silent Hill. The entire series. The first one, you're running around in fog with useless weapons everywhere. The second game was revolved around the guilt that a man had for euthanizing his wife.
We've all been there, right?
This is horror at its core. So at least an honorable mention it deserves.
Okay, I'll give you that. Honorable mention, Silent Hill, done.
On the last episode of My Parents' Basement, we asked you who would win a fight between Batman and Iron Man in a little thing we called Versus.
We've received a few submissions, but keep them coming. Send us an email, a video rant, or even post it on the Northwest Tell Community TV Facebook page.
We're going to pick a winner from all the submissions, and in the next episode, we're going to announce the winner who's going to receive a prize from Titan Gaming right here in Whitehorse.
I don't know how many times I gotta tell you. You know it's gonna be Iron Man.
Chris, Batman builds mechanical suits. Do you think he doesn't know his way around a mechanical suit?
His backup This is a little kid. He's got parental issues. Besides, he's had his back broken. The man's gonna be a cripple for life, and you know this.
Tony Stark, drunk genius. Batman, sober ninja genius.
Now let's head back to Anthony for his take on some creepy television shows.
Halloween's always been a special time for me, and especially in TV land. Remember all those great Halloween episodes from the 80s? The one to Magnum P.I.? Woo! All those led the way to the shows that you can catch now, like 666 Park Avenue, an apartment building owned by the devil. Ooh! And of course, The Walking Dead is back for their 3rd season, and American Horror Story, my favorite, is back as well. But in that vein, I've made for you my list of the top 5 best horror in television. Here's my number 5 pick, The Kingdom. This was a Danish TV series by Lars von Trier, who is quite a big-time director these days, but this was set in a haunted hospital and was wall-to-wall creepy. Plus, it introduced everyone to Udo Kier, a horror icon you should know. Number 4, Torchwood, Children of Earth. Now this is a bit of a curveball because it's actually an entire season, and it might seem weird to put a Doctor Who spin-off on a horror list, but the entire season dealt with the premise of aliens coming to steal our children to be used as drug incubators for space drugs. My number 3, X-Files. As if this wasn't gonna be on the list. This one kicked horror TV into the mainstream, into the stratosphere. Some fantastic episodes that covered every single aspect of horror imaginable, from of course the aliens, to vampires, to swamp monsters, to creepy inbred families. It had it all. Number 2, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Of course, this one's important for introducing the world to Saint Joss Whedon. It was also one of the funniest shows while being at the same time kinda scary as well. Remember The Gentleman? Now, my number 1 pick for the top horror TV, Twin Peaks. Created and directed some episodes by David Lynch, the master of weird himself, this show was a phenomenon in the 90s. Everyone was talking about it. Who killed Laura Palmer? Who killed Laura Palmer? And when the answers started coming out, it was the creepiest thing that has ever been on television. Nothing has compared to it since.
All I have to say is, the X-Files should have been number 1. That episode, like you mentioned the inbred family, that's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen on television, ever. It gave me nightmares.
I'll agree with you that Mulder and Scully were wonderful FBI agents, but they will never hold a candle to Agent Cooper.
But did Twin Peaks have any of the will they won't they tension that Mulder and Scully had?
No, but it did have a dancing midget.
Okay, well, wow, I'll give you that. Holy, I did not see that coming. Well, speaking of dancing midgets, let's check back in with Kyle and Yellowknife to see how he's making out with the munchies.
I need to get the spots out. Why are there spots here?
You had too much sugar!
How is this supposed to help anything?
I don't know if we can call the Yellowknife 911 from here in Whitehorse, but we'll check on Kyle a little later on, make sure he's okay from all that sugar. But in the meantime, we have in my parents' basement our editing wizard. David Hamelin is here to talk about Paranormal Activity.
How's it going, guys?
Excellent.
Feels a little weird to be on this side of the camera, but...
Yes. Well, you're looking handsome, though.
I know, I grew it out just for the show.
Very nice.
So it's October, which means it's Halloween, which also means we're getting a new Paranormal Activity movie. This series has kind of taken over from the Saw franchise, which every year had a consecutive movie for 7 films. Now Paranormal has kind of taken over the October slot. Paranormal Activity 4 is coming out on October 19th, and I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about seeing this movie. Have you guys seen the Paranormal Activity movies?
I've seen the first one, and that was pretty scary. But I mean, to make it up to 4 movies, is it really that scary?
What's really been popular are people watching these ghost hunting shows.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of those things too, but the one thing that never gets paid off is actually seeing a ghost or anything like that. So what really works about this series, through being a found footage movie, is give the audience that satisfaction of seeing what they want to see. They want to see ghosts on camera. There's always this lurking anticipation of, we're gonna set up a video camera while we sleep and see what happens. It's kind of a universal fear. You know, what if something starts picking at your sheets when you're sleeping? sleeping? Or what if something is gonna bite onto your skin and you wake up in the middle of the night wondering, what the hell just happened? And you find bite marks on you. Like, it feels real and it's really scary.
So this started with Blair Witch, which really popularized and kickstarted the whole found footage thing. But does it really have that much mileage? It's still a first-person shaky camera, and that hasn't really evolved from Blair Witch. Is it still effective?
I find it's really effective. I mean, I was 17 when Blair Witch came out, and it scared the crap out of me. I mean, at that time, there wasn't the YouTube, there wasn't a lot of digital video cameras. Hell, there wasn't even the internet for the most part. And so when Blair Witch came out, it was something completely new and different, and it felt real.
Well, does Paranormal, what does that series have then?
Well, what's really effective, I find, is the story. The timeline is really interesting in this series. It's really kind of the first actual sequel to the first film. The first film was about a boyfriend and girlfriend being terrorized by this demon in this house. The second film takes place before the first film, and the end of the movie actually takes place after the end of the first movie. And so when we go into the third movie, it actually goes even further back in time to the 80s and how this origin of this demon terrorizing them for 20 years actually came into play. Now, when the fourth one takes up, it actually takes place after the first film and after the end of the second film. It picks up with this family that we've never seen before. It's in modern day, and guess who moves in next door? Crazy Katie and her abducted nephew. And I think this one is going to be pretty cool, and it's going to push the story even further, because I've been wanting to know what happens after the second movie for a couple years now.
Well, as long as I have my pie chart to figure out where the timelines land, right?
Yeah, you know.
So Dave, any last words on Paranormal Activity 4?
Well, just to repeat again, it's coming out on October 19th, so I really think people should go out and see this. It's going to be a really scary movie, and I've been waiting a year, I guess, since the last one to go see it. So yeah, check it out.
Well, this seems like a perfect time to get into the final segment of My Parents' Basement, where this incredible team here has compiled the top 10 horror movies of all time.
Starting at number 10 of the list of the top 10 greatest horror movies of all time, The Cabin in the Woods. Finally, we have a movie that takes the classic scenarios that's in most horror movies and turns it completely on its head. It asks the questions that the audience usually asks. Really? Is that a good idea? Should we really be doing this? It's a fresh take on a classic scenario.
Number 9, The Blair Witch Project. This movie kicked off the entire found footage phenomenon that we see today, like in Paranormal Activity. One of the things that worked very well for this film was that a lot of people thought it was real, which worked perfectly for the found footage genre. And truly, there really hasn't been another film that has done it as well as The Blair Witch.
I'm gonna die out here.
Number 8, the original Night of the Living Dead. This is the granddaddy of zombie movies by the granddaddy of zombie movie making, George A. Romero. This movie is creepy, it still holds up to this day, and has that constant encroaching doom of never-ending waves of slow zombies.
Number 7, The Descent. This is one of the most terrifying films I've seen in the last 10 years. It follows 6 women that go on an extreme sporting adventure spelunking in uncharted cavernous tunnels. What makes this film so terrifying is the fact that even though we never see the monsters until a good hour in the film, their journey through these dark caverns and tunnels evokes a primal, claustrophobic terror that works just as well as when the monsters start picking them off one by one.
Number 6, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. This movie is crazy. It's the only movie I've ever seen where a guy cuts off his hand, has to fight the hand. So to do that, he attaches a chainsaw where his hand used to be. This movie is all out camp and a ton of fun.
Number 5, An American Werewolf in London. Directed by John Landis, this is a story about 2 backpackers in the UK who suddenly get attacked by a werewolf. One of them doesn't make it, and the other one has a few extra things to deal with as he suddenly finds himself transforming into a beast under the full moon. This movie is as scary as it is funny, and even though it was made in the 80s, the effects on it are incredible. This has the best werewolf transformation ever.
Number 4, Alien. In 1979, Ridley Scott took a B-movie premise and elevated it to A-list caliber. This film is responsible for a great many things: strong female heroines in the horror genre, a classic movie monster that has spawned multiple sequels, and one of the most disturbing, creepy, iconic moments in horror film history, the chest burster.
Number 3, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Thanks to director Wes Craven, we had a movie that actually made you scared to fall asleep. The safest place you thought. It's about a serial killer who stalks children in their sleep, in their dreams. It was an incredible premise and spawned a whole generation of films and one iconic horror villain, Freddy Krueger.
Number 2, John Carpenter's The Thing. No other movie really gave you a sense of isolation and loneliness out in the Arctic while being stalked by an alien that could look like your friend. For 1982, this movie had some really top-notch special effects. Wait till you see the head skitter across the floor. Ugh, gives me chills.
And now, the number 1 top horror movie of all time, according to my parents' basement. This movie has been on pretty much anyone's list at the top. The Exorcist. This movie is beautifully shot. It's wonderfully atmospheric. This is a great slow burn horror that leads to an epic confrontation and battle with the devil. Plus, no one ever looked at a can of pea soup the same way ever since.
It burns!
Well, that's our top 10 list, and I bet you probably disagreed with a few of them. Well, too bad. We like our list, but if you got anything to add, any comments, you know where to send them. Well, that's our show. We hope you enjoyed our special Halloween episode of My Parents' Basement.
If you've got any comments on our lists or anything we talked about today, drop us a line by email, send us a video rant, or there's always the Northwest Tel Community Television Facebook page.
Don't forget to send in your submissions for our Versus contest, because we're announcing the winner next episode. Till the meantime, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out.
My Parents' Basement.
This is not the way to get out of here.